You know, we've discussed many a times on this show that Hollywood is literally ashes. But, you know, you have to put the perspective. Why do they continue to make television shows and movies the way they're doing today? They're spending all this money and they're literally generating just garbage, stuff that people don't want to watch, that has political agendas. They're activists who are working in these shows. They've been hired by the networks or the major film industry. When there's plenty of those out there who have been in the industry a good amount of time, well experienced to create good content, and there are those who are good at what they do, have their hands tied by the corporations themselves, whether it's Viacom, whether it's Paramount, whether it's Disney. It doesn't matter what company it is, their hands are tied when it comes to creating their own projects, the projects that they're there to direct, to put their own vision into how they make the movie. But when it comes down in the end, it is the big movie company that has the final say on what the movie is going to be in the end. I don't think it was really that much like that. I mean, if you go back to like maybe the 50s and, the 40s and 50s, yeah, I would say, yeah, you had that kind of a situation then, but you had certain directors that had freedom of expression. I mean, you're talking, a long list of certain directors that have had a long list of certain films. And then there were those who made films that they were controversial because of what they want, and they've had to change their name due to political situations that were going on in the time period. I think we're headed in that direction again, on certain places, because basically you can't have this kind of ideology with Hollywood that is against their own culture that they've created. Yeah, it is a culture, their own culture they created for themselves. I mean, they're asking for diversity, they're asking for this, they're asking for that. But meanwhile, all of this has been in the industry for years. You look at the Oscars, you look at the Grammys, you look at the Golden Globes, and how much viewership they've lost. Because all it is, it's like watching a debate on television without the second person be able to give his opinion. It's a one-sided debate. If you make a movie about something political and you want to express that, that's fine and dandy. You can grab the cameraman outside from the media and discuss it. When you're inside an award ceremony and you win an award, you're thanking everybody, you're thanking the crew, you're thanking those who help you, inspire you to create the product. Now it's just, hey, we hate the orange guy, we need more of this, we need more of that. But meanwhile, these are the guys that are toting and drinking champagne, getting $20,000, $30,000 gift bags. No help to the communities at all. But when you look at how are they keeping these things funded? I mean, we look at something like the CW network and how bad Batwoman is. There's a lot of the Arrowverse. People say, well, it's just the Arrowverse. No. Look at shows like Dynasty, All American, Riverdale, plenty of other shows that are on the network. They all are low ratings. I would say on the average they're about 500 to 600, and I'm giving a bigger number than they should have, because when you add it up in the end, it's a much lower number. But 500 to 600,000 viewers, that's not a lot. You should be toting at least 900,000 to about 2 million viewers for a network. How is CW surviving this? I mean, I saw 1 week the show Dynasty was under 200,000. It did get a boost this week to over 200,000. But still was just a little over 200,000. That's not much people. If you say you added about 50,000 people to watch, yes, 50,000 people were probably bored out there, flipped by and said, what the hell is this? And, you go through the networks and, you tout numbers. Let's go over to NBC. Recently, you had Law and Order is back, SVU, and then they have the new series, which just ended. Christopher Meloni is back as Stabler. The series is called Organized Crime, which it takes a different directive from the other Law and Order series, whereas it's one story per episode. This is one storyline for the entire season. It was decent. I watched the whole entire. It kept me my interest. There are some issues, especially with the Stabler character, which that's something separate. And I'm going to leave for season 2. Like I said, I'm a guy who's going to, if it's crap in the first 2-3 episodes, yeah, it's just crap. But I'm giving this a chance on there. But when you originally look at the viewer numbers, you had about almost 8 million when it started. By the end of the last episode, it ended up to about 3 million. Networks would start to look at this and say, do we go forward since we dropped that much? That's a lot. That's a big drop from about 8 million viewers to about almost 4 million. You lost half your viewers. Let's put it in that perspective. Versus Law and Order Criminal Intent, which has stayed stable. They had a good episode this season, which captured about 8 million viewers. But they've been steadily between 3 to 4 million viewers, which is steady. And this is a show that's been for years, on there. I mean, they're ready to go. I mean, honestly, they're in their 23rd, 24th season, I think, is coming up now. And this Organized Crime is season 1. But you look at the rest of the ratings for just this past week. I mean, you're looking at, let's say, wrestling, SmackDown. You're holding about 1.8 million. Blacklist on NBC was about 3 million. Blue Bloods was about 3 million. 3 million for Luke Wilson emergency call. And then you look at Charm. Rerun of Charm is like 310,000 people watched. And like I said, Dynasty was about 230,000. I mean, you look at those numbers and you match them up and you say to yourself, why is CW still? And this is, some of these are Warner stuff. This is some of the Warner programming. Why are these shows still continuing to exist? Why are they still getting another season of this? And this is the same thing with the movie industry. Disney just put out Cruella de Vil. Hasn't done well. Made some money, but it still hasn't done well. Some of the early online figures doesn't tout it well. That it performed below Mulan. But yet they've already green-lighted, within a couple of days, they've green-lighted the sequel to this. Have we not learned from Maleficent? The issues with Maleficent. I mean, the most ridiculous, and I'm going to throw some spoilers at you if you haven't seen Cruella. The reason why she hates Dalmatians is because her mother was killed by Dalmatians. The whole movie looks like The Devil Wears Prada. That's what it looks like. Yes, the costumes are gorgeous. Yes, they did a nice job. The music is too overwhelming. I've always said, a kick-ass soundtrack makes a great movie. But if you overwhelm the movie with music, you take away from the movie itself. And that's what with Cruella, it's a little overwhelming at certain points of the movie. Plot lines and stuff like that. It just, the characters themselves, you're trying to match this with the 101 Dalmatians, and you failed. You just totally failed. You just failed in the storyline itself. And yet you're going to go with a sequel. Quiet Place, which done a lot more, they have a sequel coming out, which I think going to a third is a little bit too much. But yet again, this is Hollywood. They don't have any new ideas. They just go back to the well to pull older stuff out, reboot them. I mean, we're here reboots of The Waltons, reboot of Aliens, Predator. Predator is going to be a fight. I know that for a fact. You have other films on the drawing boards right now, across the board. Ridiculous stuff. But yet, you know, you have Netflix that brought out Sweet Tooth, which my wife is enjoying. And I hear there are some issues. I wasn't a fan of the comic itself, and my wife is enjoying that. Surprisingly, she picked up that, you know, comic book movie. She didn't even realize it was a comic book movie. But that shows you something different that is being produced out there. You know, there's plenty of the stuff. But again, I do ask, what's going on? Where are they getting this money? Because, you know, there's an old saying, you know, you continue to spend and you sort of balance out, but yet you do run out of money eventually if you continue to do the same thing over and over again. You're not going to make a profit. So I reported this on pre-flight. We're going to go a little further into this. Originally, I pulled this from Uprocks, which is, it's a decent site on there. But a little time later, No Film School, you can catch them on, if you're on Facebook. They happen to be an industry article. They do a lot of articles in the industry, tricks to the trade. You know, they give you advice if you're in the industry, camera work, audio. They just had a good article on the lavalier mics. On the 4th, one thing that came out just recently is that Viacom has been alleged to have been avoiding to pay billions in taxes. They've been sending their product overseas to avoid paying taxes in the United States.
I fucking knew it! Oh!
Someone best put it, and you'll hear it in this article, is taking your money from your front pocket and moving it to your back pocket. And you know, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. This is where they're making their money. They're using these movies and TV series as tax shelters to keep them afloat. And I would not be surprised if Disney does it, because they are all over the world. You know, Viacom, CBS, MGM, most of these companies do have subsidiaries and smaller divisions under different names throughout the world. Now, this one is written by Jason Hellerman, and we're going to read a little bit in there. Corporations use tax shelters to disguise profits, and profits on movies and TV are no different. When movies and shows go abroad, they make money. In fact, studios are looking to make more and more money abroad. That's not just because they're eager to get more of an audience for their projects, but because they're finding new and creative ways to hide those profits from the United States government. This is where the tax code needs to change. See, the problem is they say, well, tax the rich. Continue taxing the rich. That well is practically empty. They're paying for a lot right now. What you need to look at is where people are not paying taxes. Companies and stuff like that that are abroad, you know, you have to figure out a tax code for that, because they're making money and putting it right back into their corporation here in the United States. And, you know, you would think that this is out of some mobster, and I said this before, you think it's out of some mobster film, some film that basically, or TV series, you know, where basically they're doing the evil thing. I'm not an expert, and there's not a lot to read about this, but basically it comes down to a big company trying to keep as much of its taxable income as possible. You know, most of us, we do want to save our taxable income. This is not a way of doing it, and especially if you're a company. When a company makes profit on those projects abroad, a portion of those profits is owed to the government as taxes. This happens all over the world, not just with U.S. companies. According to a study published by the Center for Research on Multinational Corporations, a nonprofit group funded in part by the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, companies, including movie studios, are using tax shelters to keep profits from the government. The revolutionary part is that they use an entertainment company as their main example. Viacom CBS is a multi-conglomerate that controls TV shows like SpongeBob and movies like Mission Impossible, Transformers, and Star Trek. These properties are loved around the globe, and all are incredibly successful. Well, not recently. They put a ton of money. In fact, about 24% of the company's total revenue comes from content licensing outside North America. That's why since 2002, Viacom CBS worked loopholes with subsidiaries in the Barbados, Bahamas, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Britain to avoid paying $3.96 billion, that's billion with a B, folks, in the U.S. corporate income tax. You might be wondering how they do that. I was too, so look into the claims. The study alleges that Viacom CBS made fake companies in those territories.
It's a fake.
Many with only one or with no employees. See, this is where it falls under fraud. You know, I don't know if this might fall under racketeering also. Think about this for a minute. Then they spread the money around and pretend it didn't exist. Now, one thing is, I'm not legal, but a lawyer or anything like that, but that does sound something illegitimate. Another way they do it is by moving licensing rights of different titles. So let's take SpongeBob, for example. The rights are not a tangible thing. They're just paperwork. Exactly. So they may move where the show is licensed to one of those countries listed, which basically makes them seem like they don't owe the home country of the corporation any money because it is a product licensed somewhere else. So if a show is licensed in the Netherlands, money from any sub-license deal that comes back to the Dutch entities are technically isn't subject to U.S. corporate tax. Part of this article, what he's talking about, is also in a New York Times article. The New York Times spoke with Jeffrey Cadid, an expert in international taxation, for a simpler example. If you take the money or other property like licensing rights and move them from one subsidiary to another subsidiary, you have done anything that changes the group as a whole economically, he told the New York Times. The answer is that you haven't, and it's like taking a dollar bill, and I said this before, like taking a dollar bill from your front pocket and moving it to your rear, you still have the dollar. And as the study says, companies that rely on intangible assets like shows and movies can easily shift a part of their global profits to tax havens where most of their profits remain untaxed. That's pretty big manipulation, and it got people mad, including Viacom CBS. They are disputing the findings, saying in a statement that the study was deeply flawed and misleading. I doubt that. And adding that it demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of the U.S. tax law. No, you found a loophole, Viacom, and you used it. You used it against the government. Viacom continues, it is filled with miscategorizations, material omissions, and numerous false claims. Corporates are always going to say that. Viacom fulfills its tax obligations in all 180 plus countries. 180 countries! And in the territories we operate, and all of our revenues, including those identified in this report, are fully taxed in a relevant jurisdictions around the world, including the United States, as required by applicable law. Yeah, then why are you using the Bahamas? This is all well and good, but the New York Times examination of the study said that Viacom CBS was actually being sued for this very strategy because they have been moving the rights of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles around. Yeah, let me tell you, the suits will be coming. The lawsuits will be coming. You're taking IPs from people that own a percentage of this stuff, making more money behind some of these people's back, moving the IPs around, saying that, okay, SpongeBob is in the Dutch Antilles, or it might be over in the Netherlands. It is remarkable that they've gotten away with this. Who knows how long they've been getting away with this? Probably for decades. For decades. This is why sometimes we need to change the tax law. Not increase the taxes, but change or enforce the current tax laws on the books. Because I know there are certain tax laws that can be used that probably are not used in this case. We just have to go deep into the law, find out what we can do as far as that. And, the IRS has to stop, looking at the political aspects and start, and I'm telling you, start getting these tax evaders. This is billions of dollars. If they're making billions of dollars on taxes, this is where the money comes back to Hollywood. Is Viacom the only one? Probably there's a lot more others because, like I said, where are these people getting their money to fund these projects? That they spend $1 billion here, $1 billion there for a particular movie. They'll spend $200 million on this TV show. They'll spend $1 billion on another. They'll spend $500 million on another. Where are they getting all this money? It is not all coming from ticket sales. There are even situations, and there are people who have spoken out on this. They said, well, it's been a box office hit. How so? I've been to several screenings of this movie, and the movie theater is empty. Where are you making this money? And you may say to yourself, well, you must live in a small town. So, no, I live in a major city, and the theaters are empty. So what does that tell you? Something's up. Now, understand, from an independent point of view, buying out a theater is something an independent would done to help promote the product so a bigger company can grab it. Now, whether that's right, where you feel that's right or wrong, which I believe is wrong, but nobody notices the independent movie or program because of that. There was a time where independent programming producers got a fair shake. That's where companies like Miramax grew up from then, New Line Cinema, and many other companies that were small now and they're bigger now today because they bought into small independent films. Blair Witch Project, one of the most profitable movies in history, was shot for next to nothing. It wasn't billions of dollars to film this movie. They spent a lot more on the sequels, which didn't do well. The originals sold out. That's what that tells you right there. Never go to a sequel. If you made a movie, something like Blair Witch, don't go to a sequel. You've made your money. You want to make more money? Get back with those writers again, have them write a new story, something different from that. There's plenty of them out there. All you got to do is peruse through Netflix. And there's a lot of independent stuff out there that are on Netflix from other countries. Small movies that you wouldn't even think of heard of. And the same thing with other sites on there. Same thing if you go to the Criterion Collection, which I recommend subscribing to the Criterion Collection site, which basically will get you a ton of films out there. Some great stuff. Some of them are small independents that made this listing, that made it onto the Criterion list. There's a ton of movies out there that basically have not seen the light of day. and I've discussed this on numerous occasions on Saturday Pre-Flight. We did just recently 2 Toho movies that are rarely heard of, The Mysterians and also the Attack of the Mushroom People, Mantango. 2 good movies, and most people haven't heard of that. If you're a big Godzilla fan, you know those films. But outside of that, unless you're a film buff, you've never heard of it. Most people haven't heard of a movie called The Proposition, a great independent film about the Australian outback, that they had their version of the Old West when they were trying to reclaim Australia from being a prison colony to becoming a country. That they were cleaning up all the criminal element that was on that country. Most people haven't heard of that. Lately I haven't liked this actor, actress, whatever you want to call him or her. I don't like saying that. You're familiar with Ellen Page, who's been in the Umbrella Academy. Most people tout it back to a movie, in her career she calls Juno in 2007, which is a good film for her. But actually, she's had a better film, an independent film before that, which was fantastic, which was called Hard Candy. Very good independent film out there, and a movie that the budget was under $1 million and grossed about $8 million. $8 million, and you had other people in there that were Patrick Wilson, Sandra Oh. Sandra Oh. She's got a great popular series now. I mean, there are a lot of films out there that do get some light of day, and that's one thing great about living in New York City. We have the Angelica and many others that we're able to see some of these films. I saw Hard Candy. I saw The Proposition at the Angelica Playhouse. Great films that they are. Great movies. But most people haven't heard of those. Well done, well directed, well acted. Stuff that should have been at least gotten an award or two, but forgotten. And I bring that up because Hollywood keeps going back to the well, keep doing these, avoiding paying their tax due, because that's where they make their profits. That's part of it. There's got to be a lot more toward this, because in a way, 4 billion, 7 billion, that's a lot of money, but still, there's a lot more to this story than tax evasion. There's more into this, and I think that people need to look into this. I mean, this is why, and you've seen this past week that Iger just dumped about $100 million of stock. Why did he dump $100 million of stock? People saying, oh yeah, he's going to run for president. No, you don't dump stock that you're making money on. Something is going on over at Disney. And it's the same thing with a couple other companies. MGM getting sold over to Amazon. MGM has been failing. What's Bezos going to be doing with a lot of the IPs there? He's going to ruin them all. We already heard what he said he's going to do with some of this stuff. We know this James Bond movie that's coming out soon is not going to be that great. We already heard Fast and the Furious 9 is already open in China. We're hearing it's not a great film. You have to take to the perspective. We had a time period where we had films that were done for an artistic point of view. Sure, it made money, but it was mostly made from an artistic point of view. And like I said, the art house theaters here in New York are popular for that reason, because some of the films that are out there, you're not going to see at an AMC theater. You're not going to see it at a Cinemark theater. You may not see it on Netflix immediately, or you might catch it on Amazon, but you'll have to pay for it, additional. You might see it on iTunes, but you won't see it on anywhere else. You have several places, smaller places like Tubi TV, Shudder, that has picked up some independent stuff. But that's only two or three places that you could find some of this stuff on. And then getting to the broadcast end, you get shows that get canceled for a lot less that are popular. For example, Sci-Fi Channel cut The Expanse at a point, at the height of its popularity. And what did they say? It wasn't for ratings. It was because it cost too much. Amazon picked it up. They just canceled it, but it will be back. It'll have one more season. But the people that are behind this, which they just finished the 9th book, the final part of the story, they said, we will be finishing this story. We will finish The Expanse once it's over on Amazon on season 6. But this is not the only show that has been canceled on there. Jupiter's Legacy just got canceled recently on Netflix. Everybody was surprised at that. Why was it? This was something that was in the top 10 since it came out. I think it just fell off the top 10 list. I haven't looked at it today, but which would be Monday. I haven't looked at it, but yet it still had the viewership. Most likely, it's because it cost $200 to $250 million for eight episodes. That's a lot of money for a small project like that. You know, people say, well, it's a big project. No, it was a smaller project. It was something they were taking a chance on. But yet, other than some minor complaints, it happened to be decent. I was waiting for season 2 on that. But yet, they took Mark Millar's other series, Super Crooks, which I'm interested because I love villains. One thing about me is I love the villains in the story. They're going to be doing that one. And most people said, well, they'll probably come back to that. No, they're done. They've released the actors. When you release the actors from a project, release the crews from there, that's it, you're done. You're totally done. And you could go across the board on many other shows that you may ask yourself, why did they cancel this show? Why was it at the height of their ratings? Because they're looking for the quick in, quick out. Plain and simple. They don't want to take chances. No longer take the chances that they did before. The 90s were a great time period for broadcast television. Do you know why? You had systems like Action Pack and Prime 10 who used to put out independent programming on independent networks. And then you had CBS, who was trying to fight the late night spot, didn't work out for them, decided to cancel their late night shows and tried something different. With late night programming, you had stuff like Forever Night and Silk Stockings, which were very popular. Didn't do well according to them, even though Forever Night got several seasons out of it. Silk Stockings got bought by USA Network and got more seasons out of it. And then that's when Letterman came in at that point. But you had Action Pack and Prime 10, which were the homes for Xena, Hercules, Babylon 5, Jack of All Trades, Cleopatra 2525. I can go on and on the list on there. There were plenty of shows on there. Some of them were successes, like the ones I mentioned. And then some of them were missed out, like Forgotten Son, which was very well done. And then you had ones that didn't do well that were based on movies like Midnight Run, and Smokey and the Bandit had a TV series also. It didn't do well. But that was the chances. That was the chances they took. They don't want it anymore. They want to make sure they have the money in their pocket. They want to make sure on there. They don't want losses. They don't want to take a loss. They want to make sure they're guaranteed the money that they're going to get. They want to be safe. Safe doesn't give you what the fans, the viewers want. They want new content. So that's why there is going to be a rise of the independent producers once again. It is coming. There are those out there that are making independent content. Some great stuff. Keep an eye out for them. If they're on Indiegogo or anything like that, support them. Even if they're on YouTube, give them a like, give them a subscribe. If they have merch, buy their merch. Support them. Because they need your help to survive this. And eventually, they're going to get across. They're going to get their day. They're going to get their day on the stage. May not be today, may not be tomorrow. It could be 10 years from now. We'll see what happens. So you've reached this part of the video. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe, like, share this video. Enjoy your week. Stay cool. Stay hydrated. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye now.